Welcome to the Refine and Shine, the podcast dedicated to mastering the art of continuous improvement and optimizing every aspect of your life. I'm Angelina Rivera, your host, and together we'll uncover the secrets to refining our lives, our habits, and our processes to unlock our inner brilliance. Join us on Refine and Shine, where we'll delve deep into achieving more in life without the burnout and without all the stress. This podcast is your platform for a more fulfilling life through continuous improvement and personal growth. In each episode, I and a diverse array of guests discuss practical strategies for up-leveling every aspect of your life. From developing good habits and organizing your space to refining your mindset and personal goals, we're going to explore it all. Our guests share personal stories about the systems they've developed or systems they've used and the tweaks they've made in their lives when refinement was needed, allowing them to truly shine. Listen to Refine and Shine to learn how you can implement continuous improvement techniques in your daily routine, develop and maintain healthy habits that lead to success and satisfaction, organize your life to reduce the stress and increase your productivity, foster a growth mindset that propels you to new heights. My mission is to inspire you to take bold action, make positive changes, and become the best version of yourself. Whether you're aiming to elevate your career, nurture meaningful relationships, or enhance your overall well-being, Refine and Shine is your guiding light. With over 25 years of experience in continuous improvement, I help businesses streamline their processes, establish efficient work areas, and implement standard work protocols. I have trained over 600 individuals and teams in process improvement, optimizing workflows, and enhancing overall operational efficiency. Tune in every week as we embark on an enlightening journey, exploring paths to refinement and illuminating the way to shine in every area of our lives. Subscribe now and join us on this journey to polish your life and let your best self shine through. Thank you for joining us on Refine and Shine. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Refine and Shine podcast. I have been going through reading all about my guest that's on today, and I'm just super excited. I like just everything that they have created. I'm so excited to have them here today, and I hope they add value to you today as well. My guest today is Steven Puri. He is the founder and CEO of the Sukha company, whose mission is to help millions find focus, achieve more, and maintain a healthy work-life balance. Steven began his career as a newscaster for the #1 youth news show in the DC Baltimore market, later became a junior software engineer and Thomas J. Watson Scholar at IBM. After attending USC, he entered film production, producing visual effects for 14 films, including the Academy Award-winning Independence Day. He co-founded Centropolis Effects, sold it at the age of 28, and went on to produce indie films and serve as a VP at 20th Century Fox, overseeing Die Hard and Wolverine, and EVP at DreamWorks, which he helped with Star Trek and Transformers. Returning to tech, Steven launched the Sukha company, Sukha meaning happiness from self-fulfillment in Sanskrit, creator of a focus app designed for productivity and well-being. He now lives in Austin, Texas. So thank you.
Remarkably true. Fun to hear. Hello, everyone who's listening, driving at home, whatever they're doing. I hope this has both some inspirational thoughts as well as some very actionable stuff you can use in your life.
Oh, I love that. So tell me a little bit about all the things, how did you get to where you are today? You have some great things that you've done, but I love the concept of this app that you have and how you teach people about flow and you target remote workers. And so let's just the floor is yours.
Okay, let me give you a little context. So I have a life that is a series of incredibly lucky, weird turns. And I'd like to believe that coupled with the luck of stuff dropping in my lap, I've also worked hard to make something of it, to go oh, this is kind of cool. Let's work hard to do something, right? So as you mentioned, I went to USC when I was really little. I was a code monkey in my teens, and my parents both worked at IBM, so I knew how to code and made some money on the side working at IBM while I was in school. Happened to be around LA when computers got powerful enough to manipulate film. So it was the rise of like the non-linear editing systems like Avid, the Pro Tools for audio, Silicon Graphics for making computer generated movies. And I was there and I understood creative a bit. I understood, engineering. And that was sort of how I fell kind of without being a planned move into film. They're doing digital film. As you mentioned, worked on a bunch of movies, was very lucky that some of them were hits, produced the digital effects for Independence Day, and that won the Academy Award for visual effects. And let's be honest, everyone associated with it, a rising tide lifts all boats. So I was very happy about that. That's how I started my first company. When we approached to sell that, it was a nice exit, about a 6x return on a $15 million investment. And then I was like, what do I want to do? That led to, I think I want to work on actually making movies. I worked my way up that ladder in my 30s and ended up, executive vice president for Alex Kurtzman, Bob Orsi at DreamWorks, vice president at 20th Century Fox, running like the Die Hard Wolverine franchise, stuff like that. And then had a moment where I was like, I'm not sure this is incredibly inspiring. Like all my friends who were still in film at the time were all doing sequels. And at that point, it is a business. And I'm very grateful not to be a ditch digger or working in salt mines. But, you're just making the fifth installment of a movie that was good 15, 20 years ago when you were a kid, and you're like, well, okay. And that's when I thought, well, I know how to engineer. It's the only other thing I know. I wonder if I can find some problem that I think I can solve with a startup. And ultimately, what I do now is really help people who want to understand how can I use my time better to achieve whatever the business outcome is I want. I'm building a side hustle. I'm a solopreneur. I'm an entrepreneur, or maybe I lead a team that's remote. And some of the tools we talk about a lot are flow states. We talk about time boxing, time blocking. There are a lot of mental techniques because I saw high performers in film and high performers in tech. And it's interesting how much commonality there is, the mental sort of tips and tricks that they use to do the work that gets them to that multi-million-dollar sort of level. So that's where we are. And I would love to share some things I saw, maybe some fun stories about how I saw this applied by guys that you would know, guys who wrote Transformers, guys who did, girls who, created amazing things. So I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I would love to hear. I mean, with such a diverse career, from being on the news, news anchor, the tech, the Hollywood, all the things that you've done. I would love to see how did these experiences lead you to form this company that you have today?
You know what it is Laura, my wife, and I have a bunch of friends who either are or have been at old Twitter, at TikTok, at Instagram, and used to be at Facebook back when it was Facebook, not Meta. And it is amazing the way today, the best paycheck that you can get if you are a great designer, engineer, behavioral economist, behavioral psychologist, is at a company whose business model is steal your life. Full stop. They want you to end up 80 years old, scrolling on the sofa, double tapping. And the old grumpy guy or girl who's like, I could have been somebody. I could have written a book. I could have, they don't care. They just want you to scroll so they can sell your life to an advertiser and keep the money. And I think that is criminal. I think my children's generation will look at social media the way I look at my dad's generation and smoking, and that really inspired me to say, man, I've seen people who actually move the world forward, move their lives forward. What do they do? And I'm really passionate about sharing those for the people who want to do something with their lives. So that's how, this came about. A friend of mine and I started it as a little to-do list app, and it grew into a flow state app. And that's what I run now. I do it for free. My partner, Tony, and I both do this for free because we just believe the world should have tools for the few people who go, I want to make something more of myself. I don't want to spend my life just in TikTok or in Instagram or in a Facebook group.
No, I love that. I think that, I'm a time management. We talked before we started recording. I'm a time management guru. I teach people this because our time is precious and people do not realize that.
Yeah.
You were never guaranteed tomorrow. And so you have to make the best of your time. And the days go by so fast. And are you really being intentional with your time? Are you being, when you are working on something, are you intentionally working on that? Are you, your thoughts everywhere else? You're trying to, like, multitasking is like what I think is the worst thing to do. And a
It
lot of
doesn't
people,
exist. There
yeah,
is no such thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think that the only time that you can multitask, or, you can listen to a podcast or listen to music while you're washing dishes, doing laundry, things like that. But
Mhm.
to be really intentional and focused, you cannot, have 20,000 tabs open on your computer, doing all these other things. And so I think that it's really important when you talk about flow. What is it that you offer? Like, what is your, like, how do you do the productivity? What are the tips you can provide to us, and how can we use this app to really help us get into that flow state?
I appreciate your framing it that way. Let me tell you, a lot of what I've done is working backwards from problems that I have.
Mm,
The old thing about necessity being the mother of invention. For me, it's been like pain. And I'll give you a very clear example. I had noticed a pattern when I started working remotely, which is I call it the cold start problem. Hey, tomorrow at 9, Angelina, I'm going to work on this thing, blah, blah, blah. But at 9:15 tomorrow morning, I would still be returning emails that were maybe not priorities, or I'd be scrolling through the news quickly to make sure I was up on what was going on. And at 9:30, I'd kind of roll around to do the thing that I was going to do. And the result of that kind of behavior was really felt at the end of the day, where it's like, oh man, I was busy all day, but I didn't really get the important stuff done. I'll get up tomorrow early and I'll finish today's work tomorrow before I start tomorrow's work. And it's the lie that you tell yourself that then you tell yourself tomorrow night. It's just like dominoes through the week, right? That really got me down on myself where I'm like, man, I suck. Like, how is it like this morning I had all the potential in the world, and today I'm still looking at kind of the same things need to get done, but I was working all day doing stuff, right? So one of the things I learned about myself, and this is, let me just share, a lot of smart people have written about this. So anything intelligent that I say is probably from studying the really smart people like Mihai Csikszentmihalyi wrote Flow, James Clear, Cal Newport, and the idea of deep work and shallow work, Near, and the idea of internal external triggers. So let me just give them credit. That said, something that I recognized about myself when I said, well, why am I doing this? Well, I'm not starting at 9. Why? Because I'm procrastinating. Well, why are you procrastinating? I'm procrastinating because I'm overwhelmed, curiously. I was overwhelmed at one of two things usually. I would look at my task list and I'd either say, oh my God, there's 17 things on there. And I'd be almost paralyzed because I'm like, where do you begin?
mhm.
Or there's something on there that was ridiculously large, like write my book. And I'm like, I can't make a dent. I have that 1 o'clock meeting with Angelina. Like, I can't make a dent. And it's like, what's the point of starting? And that turned into, oh, maybe I'll scroll or return some emails or do something that was less painful than confront that. So came up with with my friend Tony, a really simple way to help someone like me. And if anyone out there has had this experience, I don't know if you've ever had that experience of catching yourself just procrastinating in the morning before
Oh,
doing
yeah.
the thing. So we built a little smart assistant that will look at your task list. You can put your task list in the website. The Sukha.co is just a website. And it's a task list. Your assistant will help you prioritize, like, hey, Angelina, it feels like these three are the top priorities today. You agreed, or you want to change them? Okay, great. And as soon as you hit the play button and your computer goes in do not disturb, and the music plays and it's all nice, you can only see those three. The other 14 things are hidden from view. And it helps if you have ADD, which I do, from that desire to multitask and like jump around and see all the things and feel paralyzed because there's so many. They're just three. And suddenly it seems very doable. And it's a simple mental trick. Here are my three things today. And I'll tell you, since we did this, members in our community, in our platform, are 77% more likely to finish all three things when they used to finish two. Nothing changed. Same kind of tasks, same people, same amount of time. Earth is the same. It was just the sense of like, oh, I can get through three. Yeah, done. So little things like that you start to learn. And as you read, obviously there are other mental, tricks like that to go, how do I stop myself from painful things? Like, do you ever pick up your phone when you're working?
Yeah, sometimes.
Me too. I found doing that same thing of like, oh, why did I just have an instinct to pick up my phone now in the middle of this? It was usually when I was coding and I ran up against something that was just hard. Why isn't
Yeah.
this working, or I was trying to write a blog post and I'm like, I don't know what to do now, right? And that muscle memory of like, well, there's some zero effort dopamine right here. Want a little bit, and wow, how well trained I am to those notifications and that sense of like the scroll is waiting for you. So we built the simplest thing. When you're in the website and which you kind of like leave in the background running while you work, when you hit play to start your day, a little QR code comes up. You can shoot with your phone, put your phone down. If I pick up my phone, the little smart assistant in the website, you can hear him or her say, Steven, do you really need to be on your phone right now? And it's just that little moment of, like you said, intentionality and mindfulness. It doesn't stop me. It doesn't reach out of the computer and slap my wrist and go, put that down. But it gives me that one pause to go, is this who you want to be? And sometimes that's all I need to go, no, you know what? Let me just try this a different way. And then when you get over it, you're like, I'm done. Feel great, as opposed to like, oh, I'll come back to it tomorrow, or after dinner, I'll try and finish this, which I hated that feeling. So that's really, for me, like the impetus of it.
Well, I love that you said that if you don't get back to it, and I love that you said 3 things, because that's what I teach my people, like 3 things, focus on 3 things you can get done today and be
Three is a
intentional.
magic number.
And so on the phone, I love how you said when you pick up your phone, it's because you're stuck, right? We're in this stuck
Yep.
state. So maybe we've been sitting on that task too long. Maybe we just need, instead of picking up our phone, which I did, is if I feel like, oh, I can't think right now, I will put my maybe if I'm sitting, I'll put my desk up in a standing mode. Maybe, do something like
That's
do
cool.
some
You have a standing
stretches.
desk?
Yeah.
That's really
Yeah.
cool. I love that.
Yeah, I'll do something like that to just move my body a little bit, to shift my brain and to make, what am I doing? Why am I stuck on this thing? And that usually helps, because we just need to move. We're just like, we're so focused, and then we just need to kind of like, shake our body out a little bit. And that really helps. And we'll go back to like, okay, this is what I got to get done. The thing about it is when we procrastinate and we like say we were supposed to do this thing, we picked up our phone, we did all these other things, and we were scrolling on social media, or we were reading the news because we thought we needed to catch up and figure out what's going on.
Mhm.
All of these things are delaying what we're supposed to do. The thing is, it goes in the back of our heads, like we got to get this thing done. So when you're eating dinner with your family, or you're watching a movie with
Yes.
your
You're
wife, you're
holding that in
constantly
your
thinking
mind.
about the thing that you should have been doing. If you
Totally agreed
just
with you.
focused it and got it done, what you put off for 7 hours, you could have gotten done with about an hour, or just depending on the task of that focused time. I also love what you said about, okay, you're going to write this book. You can't write a book in a day, but maybe
Mhm.
you can work on a chapter or two or three, and
It's a
narrow it
goal.
down.
It's not a task. It's a
Yeah.
goal.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And one of the things when I pick up my phone, I notice if I pick it up, I'm picking it up to look at the time or something like that. So now not only do I put my phone on do not disturb, but I'll turn it upside down, because then I don't see the triggers, that light up behind you,
I
because
love
that's
that.
another thing that people get distracted by. Um, I think of the average, it's like 144 times a day that people pick up their phones. And I say that when I pick up my phone, I always tell people, if you don't have time, let me check your screen time. And I bet you I can find some time.
That's very well put.
One of the things I wanted to talk to you about. So this app that you have, it runs behind the computer. And as you're focusing, it can help you focus on these things with
Yeah.
that you're doing. And it's a free app, right?
It's free for 7 days, no credit
Okay.
card. Just try it out. And if you like it, it's like 30 cents a day.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. And it's basically it's a website that you just open up in Chrome or whatever and run in the background. It plays beautiful music while you work. It's if it's worthwhile, we can talk about flow states because it's basically a flow state app, to be really blunt.
I would love for you to share a little bit about the people are like, well, is this for me? It's just another thing, and can you talk about what flow state is? And because I think that they're like, oh, it's just another thing, but people need to realize, and just like when I teach time management coaching, or, have
Mm-hmm.
these programs, people are like, it's just another thing. It's not going to help me. Well, one, that's a negative thought, and that's not, you're never going to get help if you constantly have those negative thoughts, but
True, true.
we have to be intentional. And
Mhm.
so talk a little bit about flow state.
Okay, so this is foundational to our talk today. And I know you and I know what this is, and I hope some other people are listening that benefit from this. A Hungarian American psychologist named Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, he had a very strong thesis that these high performers, had a way of getting into a concentrated state where they did the work you know them for, the stuff that moved their life forward or moved the world forward. And he said, I want to study that. How do they do it? Now, I want, like Prometheus, I want to go up on Mount Olympus and steal fire and bring it down to the rest of us, right? So he studied them. And when he was done, he wrote the book Flow, which is the seminal work on this, which is why we call it a flow state. And he said, flow is the most beautiful metaphor, most appropriate metaphor I can think of. Because after listening to all these athletes and inventors and artists, what they do differently is we're all paddling our little boats, but they smartly align their boats with the current and it magnifies their efforts. And it's a fascinating book. And you don't even have to read it. Like I have a bunch of summaries on our website, on our blog and stuff about it, but he talks about some of the, constituent parts of it. He talks about the conditions precedent that help you get into it. So he said, hey, you know what? I've noticed that all these people, no matter what they can call it like the zone. I'm in the zone, like that famous Michael Jordan quote about when I'm in the zone, it's me and the ball, right? And what he's saying is the world falls away. Like I'm not focused on the scoreboard, the stands, even the other defenders. Like when I'm that focused, there's nothing that exists but me and the ball. And it's an amazing thought. So Mihai wrote, it seems like you have to be doing something you think is meaningful. I haven't counted anyone doing it when they're like stapling reports. Okay. So they're not going to get into a flow state. It requires a little while to get into that, usually 15 to 30 minutes just to get into that state where the world falls away. He said it's characterized by a lack of time, like a lack of sense of like what time is passing. 15 minutes is the same as 2 hours. He said you have to have skills that apply. It's not, Michael Jordan painting and getting into a flow state, nor is it Picasso playing basketball, right? And you have to be challenged. He's like, it has to be something where you actually have to bring like your A game to it. And there's more to it. But what he says is he's like, this is something you can replicate. These people have figured it out. But how can you apply this in your life? And, people obviously have built upon this research and said like, what else is a component? Like music has been found to be really helpful to get some people into flow. We took the research of like, it seems like 60 to 90 beats per minute, certain key signatures, melodic, ambient, like non-vocal music helps a lot. I have a bunch of friends who are film composers with time on their hands, right? Mm-hmm. They wrote 1,000 hours of original flow music for us. So you get a lot of these things together and it helps you get to that state. And I experienced a flow state before I knew there was a term called flow state. I remember this experience where I was like on a plane. I was going from Austin to San Francisco, and I wanted to illustrate some ideas I had about a feature for my team. So when I got there, I could be like, hey guys, we took off out of Austin. We landed like 15 minutes later. I was like, an engine fell off. Like they're not being honest with us. Like something bad happened. We're in Dallas. Like what happened? No, over 2.5 hours had gone by. I had no concept. I didn't know if the drink cart had come by, but my designs were done and I felt really good. I was like, I did some good work here. Time had just kind of like, I lost track of how time was passing. I was so deep in it. And I thought to myself, man, I was thinking I have to race to the hotel to try and finish the designs in my little room and eat something in the hotel lobby, Mm-hmm. I could go to dinner and actually feel good. Okay, cool. How did that happen? And happily, there's been a lot of writing about here's how you do that. So really what Tony and I have done is just said, how do we take all of these pieces, put them in a simple website where you just hit a play button. And like there's a smart assistant that helps you narrow in on what's really a priority, what's meaningful. There's, music. You can time block, you can connect your calendar and literally just drag tasks in and say, okay, this should take an hour and a half, put it here, and block time. So you go, oh, I have a flow session. Like I mentioned, you have to have something that's meaningful. You have to have something where you're challenged. And it takes you at least 30 minutes, 15 to 30 minutes to get in. Mm-hmm. So you need a budget, like an hour, 2 hours. So if you're a leader, for example, and you want your team to do deep, meaningful work, you need to set aside an hour or two a day when you're not bugging them with Zoom meetings and Teams meetings and, Slacks and all that stuff. And if you are a solopreneur, an entrepreneur, you need to treat that time as sacred. Go, you know what? This time is set aside not for emailing and not for returning, my Slacks, but going, what do I do right now that actually tomorrow changes my life, moves me closer to the financial success that I want, the emotional success, the recognition in my field, you know, that is really what I'm here to help with. And I know you do this too. So, which is why I'm really honored to be here.
Well, the way that I love that you're doing it, so I don't have the app or anything like that. I teach your app would be like the best part after the people have gone through the deep dive. Like what is getting them stuck? What is their goals?
Mm-hmm.
Getting clarity, breaking down that I want to write a book down into actionable steps.
Mm-hmm.
What do they need to do? I use the Eisenhower matrix of, what is it that you need to do? What is
That's a
it you
good
need to
one.
delegate,
Yeah.
decide,
What's urgent or
delete.
important?
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 And those are the types of things that I help my people understand, because I think that once you get behind all of that, and then in order to, like, your app is like the second step, for what I teach, because
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, how do you sustain it? Because you can do things for a little bit, but the problem is we're not consistent. A lot of people don't do things consistently. And so getting in that, okay, you start your day. First, we're not going to pick up that phone because
Yeah.
you don't need to do that.
Yep.
Um, and when you, another thing I love is that when you're taking a lot of people are like, think about work when they're taking a shower. No, you take your shower, you just think about your shower. Like, if you're very consistent on what you are, very intentional in your time, when you are at work, then you think about work. I saw you light up about that. So go
I
ahead.
did. There's something you said though, where I'm going to say something that's counterintuitive and actually counter what you just said, which is a thing about creativity that I happened to learn right when I was graduating from SC. I started working at this ad agency that did trailers and music videos and stuff, right? And it was, I've seen it proven true so many times. The company was owned by two guys who were, they'd done trailers and all this stuff like 20 years, really well respected in film. And I was like a senior in college making some money working here as I sort of like started working, making my move into film. My job at that time was when rough cuts of movies came in from the studios, mainly Warner's and Buena Vista, which is Disney. Um, I assigned them to write a producer. So I'd be like, oh, Angelina, we got the new comedy in from Sony. You did such a great job of that Will Ferrell thing. Write a trailer, right? So I would be the one to choose who kind of did what and divvy them out and follow up on them, right? So Jeff, who is one of the two owners of the company, who only person in my life that's ever called me Stevie, but in this story, he calls me Stevie. Don't call me Stevie. He does. I love him. He's still a friend, but I don't know why. So he comes to my office. I'm 20 and he's 40 probably, right? And he's like, Stevie, you know Bart? And I was like, Bart, the guy who works in the vault. Yeah, I met him. Yeah, nice guy. He's like, why? So he's like, you ever give Bart a movie to write a trailer for? I was like, Jeff, we're talking about the guy in the vault that drives tapes around and picks up like lunch, right? He goes, yeah. I have an instinct about him. I was like, okay, you know what? You're the guy with the name on the door who has this great reputation. You want me to give him a trip? Done. Got it. Okay. So I found some like Warner Brothers B title that had a long deadline, right? So if he came back and said, I want to do it, fine. So he gave it to him. Jeff comes to my office 2 days later. Stevie, how's Bart doing? I'm like, Jeff, I gave him, where it was like 2 days ago. I'm not going to stress him out. I'll ask him on Monday. He's like, okay, that's fair. What else did you give him? Jeff, he's never written a trailer before. I gave him one. Like, you want me to give him two? He's going to blow his brains out, right? And Jeff said this. He goes, Stevie, let me explain how creativity works to you. It's always about the other thing. He goes, you give Bart one movie to work on. He's going to stare at it with little beads of sweat coming down his temples, and he is going to write the most obvious B version of that trailer you can imagine. The part of your brain that does the weird little, I don't know, chocolate and peanut butter. What do they like together? He's like, it's not the part you think you're thinking with. I have seen this proven true throughout my film, TV, tech careers. And if you've ever experienced this, I'm so curious. Like, did you ever have that weird idea for your pod, for your writing, for when you were driving, doing the dishes, showering, as you said, going for a walk, something where your executive mode network was busy and your default mode was like, oh, now I can like play and do crazy stuff. Has that happened for you?
Oh yeah, yeah. But and that's the part. The creativity always happens in the shower. The
Right?
thing the thing I was
Yeah.
saying is, though, you're not thinking about what meetings do I have throughout the day,
Right. Which is annoying.
yeah,
Yeah.
that
Yeah. No,
part
you're
of
totally
it.
right about that.
Creativity, because you know I think is like when you're listening, when you're driving or washing dishes or driving, is because you're listening to music and that
Mhm.
creativity. Like, I'm
Yeah,
not, some people listen to music in the shower. I know that I sometimes do and sometimes don't. It depends, but uh, that's when the creativity happens because you're in that. I probably because you're in that state. You're in flow
that's true.
state.
You're like, yeah, little default mode network can play. There is a great book about this, if anyone wants to read it, by Olivia Fox-Caballan and Judah Pollock, called The Net and the Butterfly, and like catching those ideas. And it talks about the neuroscience behind this of how do the different parts of your brain do different kinds of work. And I found it fascinating. Your default mode network is almost like the little child that does stuff the adult would not do. Little child would be like, I don't know, cell phone. What does it taste like? An adult would never do that. Like the executive mode network executes action. I have to get my slide deck ready for tomorrow's meeting. I have to do my homework. I got to watch this. But it's when the executive mode network, like the adult is busy, that the child gets to go, oh, let's
Yeah.
call it some crazy stuff.
I love that. I love that. One of the things I was wondering about is I know that a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs,
Mm-hmm.
solopreneurs, they get really scared of technology.
Mm-hmm.
They're like really, they're learning how to do their website. They're learning how, social media. They're learning
Yeah.
how to have it like their emails and all the things.
And AI.
AI. So is your app does it how does it how easy is it to operate? That's what I would like to say. Is it a technic do you have to be technologically can you have basic technology knowledge and be able to operate it?
I worked on designing it. So, of course, I have a biased opinion because I know how it works, right? Because I was like,
Mhm,
oh, we should put a button in the middle that has a play symbol on it, right?
mhm.
So, I think it's pretty simple. I'll tell you the logic behind it in case that maybe answers the question more objectively, which is Tony and I thought when you sign up, we should ask you the questions about how we can help you the most, right? So we ask you like, hey, do you use a Google Calendar? Do you want to drag and drop tasks into your calendar so you can sort of like block time and see how long things will take, right? Do you use Slack? Does it bug you? Oh, you can connect it. And then when you start a session, we'll automatically put it in do not disturb. Things like that. Do you use a task manager like Google Tasks or ClickUp or Todoist or Trello? Oh, you can connect it, pull your tasks in. So I think what we wanted to do is your first like 30 seconds is just saying like, in what ways can we help? Does your phone bug you? Oh, we got something to help you. And then you see after the 30 seconds of onboarding, right? Where you say like, yes, I use that. No, I don't use that. My phone bugs me. These websites bug me. Then you get dropped on the main screen, which is your screen for the rest of your, time being a member, and you hit play. Timer starts. It's based on the Pomodoro system, which a lot
Yes.
of people, love. But you can also click the time. You say, oh, I don't want to work 25 and 5. I want to work 55 and 5, which is actually what I do. Click it, type 55, enter, boom, suddenly your Pomodoro timer does 55-minute cycles, that sort of thing. So we want to make it customizable, but also super simple, where if you don't do anything but just click play and then put it in the background, like it'll play music for you. You can, like I mentioned, you can, have your phone watch. You can also install a Chrome extension for free if websites distract you. Like one of the things I noticed is during the pandemic, a lot of people were doom scrolling, and they said, "Oh man, sometimes I open CNN or Fox News or whatever your flavor is of news, or people get distracted by going to ESPN. I'm not really a sports guy, but I noticed that was a thing that our members were like, "Oh, could you help me with this?" We made a Chrome extension. It's free. Click it, install it. You open up ESPN, your little smart assistant goes, Steven, it looks like you're distracted. And then you have the option of going, you know what? I want to be intentional. Close it, get back to work. And your assistant's like, welcome back to focus. So I try and make it pretty easy, but it's also customizable for the people who are like, oh, I want to make my timer work this way, or I want to like connect my Todoist. We'll do that.
Well, I love that you're using the Pomodoro technique because a lot of people, they try to just like 3 hours. I'm just going to sit here. Well, our brains aren't like we are not wired to think like that and just sit there. We have to
Right?
like right 25 minutes to 55 minutes, get up, stretch your body, things like that. And I love that it has those like football season. People want to go and check. They have their I forget what they're called right now. I'm not, I love football, but I
The
don't do,
fantasy football
yeah,
stuff.
fantasy football. They want to check
Oh,
all that stuff, you
huge.
know?
Yeah.
College, when the college basketball season goes and they have all those
Yeah.
brackets. So I love that it has those extensions that you can, so that way you're not distracted. Because when we're distracted, it just takes us away from our focus. It takes us longer to get things done. And we also will have these great things and we're working and working, and then we see, like, the phone light up, or we see a flash of something and we're like, oh, we look out the window, see a butterfly, and then we're like, oh, the butterfly is
Squirrel.
landing on the, yeah, it's landing on the tree that's right next to the football. Oh, let me check the scores. Like, we're so easily
That
distracted.
is so
Yeah.
true. The picture you just painted is so accurate. Oh my God. You're talking to someone medically diagnosed with ADD. That's like you were inside my head.
Yeah. I have not been diagnosed with ADHD, but I have loved ones in my house who have. And one of the things I love that you say is that you play music in the background. In fact, when my son he would struggle in school, and
Hmm?
I asked his teacher, I said, can I let him use his phone just to play music? If he can play music, take his test, sit in the corner, not because he's in
Hmm?
trouble, but he has to like look at a blank wall, that he's not distracted, that he's not worried about other people getting up and seeing that they're done. And then he's like, oh, I must hurry up.
Yeah.
That teacher worked with me. My son's grades skyrocketed. It
That's
was
amazing.
it was just amazing. And it was just because of music. My son's today, like if he's focused on something, has to have the music. He's a mechanic now, so it's not that, so he has these buds that go right below so he can still wear his hearing
Right. But he
protection.
got through that.
Yep. That's how
That's
he gets through it.
Can I tell you something that I learned? Because we have a group chat in the app, and I'll tell you about that. Is if you want to go in there, you can sort of talk to other people who are all being productive or whatever. And I learn a lot from what people ask for, what they complain about, what they give us congratulations on. And what you just said reminded me when we launched the music, and people are like, oh, this is so cool. You have some lo-fi playlists, you have some up tempo, down tempo stuff. Somebody said, have you ever had sounds of nature? And I was like, no, we haven't. And our audio engineer, buddy, who's an audio engineer up in SF, he was in Kathmandu. And he said, guess what? It rained while I was there. I stuck my microphone out the window underneath the eaves, and I just recorded 2 hours of rain in the Himalayas. Do you want it? And I was like, sure. I mean, sounds kind of cool. We put it up as it's sort of people discover this, and called it Himalayan Dream Rain, like a 2 hour loop of rain. Huge hit. People came out of the woodwork going, you know what? Actually, what I realized is this brings me to a place, in my childhood, and what sort of takes me away and like helps me focus. So we tried a stream, the sounds of a little gurgling brook in Japan. We tried the surf in Cyprus. We launched Emerald Lake up in near where Tony lives in Canada. We just hear like the little waves lapping on the side of the shore and the birds and stuff. And then because I love this idea of a coffee shop, because like in film, when I was having to read a lot of scripts, I'd often go to this coffee bean that's across from the Directors Guild on Sunset and Fairfax.
No,
And
that
it's
place.
known as like a writer's coffee shop. So we launched the sound. We found a coffee shop in Vienna, Austria that had recorded a couple hours of just the sound of the coffee shop, just like the espresso machine and the plates clanking. It's incredibly popular. And people are like, I don't leave my house as much anymore as I used to, maybe, before I had kids or blah, blah, blah. But this gives me that sense of like when I was a young writer, or when I was, and I would go to a coffee shop, and that feeling of like you're looking around and everyone's kind of on their little laptops working. That I never would have come up with my own. And it just fell in my lap.
I love that you said the coffee shop, because during the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
my daughter she was in high school at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and she was going to high school and she had college classes, and she was doing both. And she struggled not being in an environment with people around her.
Mm-hmm.
So we would go to a coffee shop. We'd pick
I
a
love it.
coffee shop, and just to go, and I would work on whatever I had to work on. Maybe it was a presentation or something, but I would go and we would literally take our laptops and we'd rent a booth because we wanted the bigger booth. And we
I
would just
get
went
it.
there and just work, just work. And so I can just imagine, how much that would help those people who, like maybe that college student who's out there who really wants to, have other people around them, but it's late at night because they've already had, whatever their work day, school day was, and they have to get this research paper done just to put on that app and just get it, put them in
Okay.
there.
I love what you just said. And I'll tell you something that I was wrong about, or that I didn't know if I was right or wrong about, and someone who helped me. So I had an idea. When we started this, it was very much like a single player game, right? You typed in the website, hit play, and you got your stuff, and you were just in your little zone. Now, because I, founded Sukha, I talked to a lot of members, but it's almost like a hub and spoke where I knew all of them, but none of them had any sense of each other, right? They'd all talk to me asking for bugs to be fixed or, features they wanted and things like that. So I had this thought. I was like, what if they knew each other? What if there was some way for them to just get a sense of like, oh, there are all these other people trying to do something with their lives, right? Would that be a great idea? Or would that be like the most distracting, awful thing ever, right? Would that be just like the opposite of flow? So what did I do? Boom. Talked to some people, some of our members. I was like, hey, who has a couple minutes to Zoom? I want to bounce some ideas off here, right? There was one woman who's still a member. I see her in there pretty frequently. She said this to me. I pitched her this idea and I said, bad idea, good idea. What do you think? She said, Steven, listen, I can go to the Nike store and they will sell me a pair of shoes, a left shoe and a right shoe. I can put them on my feet and go run. Works great. There are 100 million people in the Nike Run Club. Because when you run with other people, you run further, you run faster, you're more accountable. The days that you suck and you're like in bed, you're like, I don't know if I want to go. And your friends come by and like pick you up and you go run, it feels great. And when you get to be there for one of your friends who needs that, it feels even better when you're the one to lift them up and go, let's go do this. She said, you should do it. And it is one of the favorite things for me in the app is you can drop in the group chat, talk about what you're working on, ask people for help, cheer someone else on. Like we had a guy, his name is Roy King. He's very public about this. I saw him working, nights and weekends. And one day I just clicked on him, looked at his bio. I was like, who is this dude? He seems pretty reliable. He's an assistant vice principal at a high school in Missouri. Okay, cool. You can post, you can post what you're working on. So right now they post he finished something. One day he posted in there, this is this spring, April, May, I guess. He posted, finished my dissertation. And people are like, oh, like for a doctorate? Like, what are you doing? He goes, yeah, I've been using Sukha because I only have like 90 minutes at night after I do my vice principal stuff and high school stuff to work on my PhD in engineering. So I need to be really focused for those 90 minutes because that's all I got between life and work. And I use it on weekends. I just turned my dissertation, but don't get too excited because I have to defend it. It's not mine yet, right? So he said, my date is like 2 weeks from Monday or something. Can I tell you the weekend before that Monday, the number of people from around the world that I know, I run the platform, they don't know him. Like they're not close friends of his, but they remembered this. And over the weekend posted like, you got this, Roy, go for it. Let us know how it goes. Can't wait. And I was like, I feel very proud to be part of a community of people who are like cheering each other on, not tearing each other down. Right.
Yes.
Monday, he posts nothing. And people finally are like, hey, anyone talk to Roy? What happened? What happened with Roy? Anyone hear from him? Nothing. Tuesday morning, he posted, you may now call me Dr. King.
Oh, wow.
And
That gave me chills.
Went nuts. That is the power of being with other people who are trying to do something. Because Roy is part of a community and we hold each other up. And that maybe is cooler than the music, the smart assistant, the task list, the Pomodoro, any of that stuff.
I love that. I love that. As we wrap up, I just wanted to know, how do people get into flow? Like, how does the app help them get into flow?
Oh, really easy. Choose something you need to work on. It has to take at least half an hour, ideally an hour, right? It was like a real task. Type in the Sukha.co, THESUKHA.co. You can sign up very quickly. Like I said, it'll say like, hey, does your phone bug you? Does your website bug you? Great, start. There's a play button. Hit play. Music begins. Put it in the background. You can lock your phone. You can install the Chrome extension if you want. Do what you want to do to help. And then just do your work and look up after an hour and see if you had that experience like I had on the Alaska flight where I was like, wow, I didn't notice an hour went by. My stuff's done. Okay, this is kind of cool. If I could do this every day, I can either do more in the same amount of time, or I can do the same amount of stuff in less time and have more time to do something else. And that's ultimately the way it works. And at the end, you hit stop. You can get a score. Like it'll show you a live graph of how you're doing. So, you open Facebook, you lose points. Like you can scroll over the graph and it'll show you like for each 5-minute increment, what did you do right? What did you do wrong? Where did you gain and lose points? Because like Mihai said, it's very important that you get feedback. You need to know how you're doing. Like whether it's Michael Jordan looking at the scoreboard, whether it's, Picasso being able to stand back and go, oh my God, I've created Guernica. That feedback loop is really important. So we built a little live graph that sits in the corner. So you can glance over it and be like, oh man, I'm up to like 450 points. Da-da-da. Simple and kind of fun, I think. It's fun having a graph.
Yeah, because we seek that validation sometimes, and when we're,
Yeah,
especially for those remote workers or those entrepreneurs who are like that, you don't see your everyday successes, but you can say like, oh yeah, you know what, I sat down and I'm focused on this thing and I was able to get this thing done. And
yep.
it allows you to be more present, because when we are really intentional, like I said, if we're really intentional with our time, we can be present for other things, our family, all the other things that we want to do, and not feeling exhausted and burned out, right?
Yeah, and there are a lot of beautiful pieces of technology that want to steal your energy.
Mm-hmm.
And the same way Mihai had a strong thesis about there's something these high performers do. I want to find out what it is. I have a strong thesis that we all have something great inside us. And the question of this lifetime is, are you going to get it out or not? And man, there are enough forces on the not side. There are enough $1 trillion companies working to make sure you waste your life. It's really easy to not. And yeah, I'm having a child this year. I think a lot about like what can we put into the world that allows the people of something that they want to do. They want to make something of themselves to say, I'm going to get this out of me. I'm not going to die with this inside me.
I love that.
That's why we're here.
I love that. As we wrap it up, I would love to just give my as I always ask all my guests, what is one type of action, one thing that my people can do today in order to refine and shine?
One step. That is absolutely the truth. That expression about a journey of 1,000 miles, kilometers, whatever begins with one step. That first step, the 0 to 1, is the hardest because you're like, oh, I've got to get going. It's scary. I've experienced it. That was my cold start problem. We talked about like half an hour, 45 minutes ago. That first step. And that, I think there's a really good commencement speech at University of Texas by that Admiral McRaven,
Mm-hmm.
where he just said, make your bed. There's a reason we do it in the military. Get one thing done, and that first step carries you through your day. The momentum you will build. And that is absolutely what I've found to be true, is like, if you just get that first thing done, suddenly you're like the second and third, doable.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. I love all the things that you've created, and I will definitely put all the links so people can contact you. And, I just want to thank you. I want to thank you because there's so many people that need this. And, I think that what it can help is help so many people out there. And
I appreciate that. I
I'm
hope we
sorry.
can help.
Oh, yes. One of the things I also wanted to just say that I love the part where you said, what are you going to leave? That it's like kind of like that legacy. We have these things in us, and our divine power, God, whatever people believe in. There's things that they put on our hearts, and they put in our brains, and it's to create, and we are meant to create. And when we don't do that, or we keep squishing those. Maybe like the podcast. I want to do a podcast, and I kept saying,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure," because you have a lot of people who are gonna like validate that you're not good enough, or validate that
Sure.
they're the number one podcaster, or they're this or they're that. It's gonna shrink you. But if you can be persistent and show up by taking that one step, buy the mic, come up with a graphic, every day take an action forward, and really using that flow to really help you get into that state and get all these things done, you'll find the time, and
Yep.
you'll feel better. So thank you.
I agree. I appreciate I'm honored you had me on, and I appreciate what you just said. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Refine and Shine.
We hope you find valuable insights and inspiration to fuel your journey of continuous improvement. Remember, the key to success lies in refining your processes and letting your inner brilliance shine. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Your feedback is greatly appreciated and helps us reach more listeners like you who are eager to refine and shine in all areas of life. Stay connected with us on social media for updates and additional resources and behind-the-scenes content. We love hearing from our listeners, so feel free to reach out with any suggestions, questions, or success stories you'd like to share. As we wrap up, remember that the power to transform your life lies within you. Keep striving for growth, embracing change, and seeking opportunities to refine your skills. Together, let's continue to shine bright and make a positive impact in the world. Until next time, keep refining and keep shining.